Start, Srishti.
Good morning, dear Gaveliers and Toastmasters. I'm Gavelia Srishti Kohli, Vice President, Public Relations of Eloquent Elites Gavel Club. Welcome to this education session on how to write a speech. To take us through this process is distinguished Toastmaster, Dr. Brillian. He has been a Toastmaster for the last 15 years. He was the president of Bombay Toastmasters Club in 2009 to 10, and in this particular year. Put your hands together for this achievement. He led the club to be a President's Distinguished Club. He has served in 3 Toastmasters districts as district officer, districts 82, 41, and 98. He was the first district director of D98. He served as Region 13 advisor in 2019-2020. He has been part of many committees at Toastmasters. He was the Toastmasters Convention Speaker in 2021. He has achieved Distinguished Toastmaster Award 5 times. He is Chief People Officer and Head of Student Success at Times Pro, a higher ed tech initiative of Times Group. He is an engineer, postgraduate in computers, master's in human resources, and doctorate in management. Let's listen to him with rapt attention as he unravels the art and science of how to prepare a speech. Please note down your questions and reserve them for the end. Over to you, distinguished Toastmaster, Dr. Brillian.
Thank you so much, Christy, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever part of the world you may have joined in. I see a few members from Amanora Gavel Club as well. Welcome to this session. Thank you once again, and hope, Girija, you get better soon. Quick question for all of you. When you heard about how to write a speech, what was the first thing in your mind? Any responses?
Sorry, a topic or maybe introductions.
Okay. What else?
Then telling what the topic is about.
Okay.
Explaining why do you want to do this, reasons.
Okay, I see one hand raised. I'm not able to see the full name. Gavel Club of Amanora.
Yeah, so the first thing that came to my mind was that we would be getting to know how to, formulate the speeches and the sequence, the proper opening, body, and conclusion.
Okay, excellent. Any other ideas? Any other thoughts people had?
Yeah, I also think about the experience for me as a speaker when I'm writing, and also for the audience. So how am I going to curate that experience and deliver it? That is also important for me.
Fantastic, Abhishek. Thanks for talking about the audience. Most important ingredient, isn't it? Any other views? Any other thoughts? Great. So
Toastmaster Maya, any questions? I thought.
Was there a hand raised?
Looked like no, it's not there. Yeah, you can go ahead.
So just a quick confirmation, if you can see and hear the screen right now.
Okay. Now we started. Yes.
Sunday morning, all of you would have had plans, but as people said, there are a lot of elements with regards to a speech. And one of the most important thing which I personally believe is the art of storytelling, and most important, leaving an impact with the audience. Because at the end of the day, whatever you try to do is to ensure that there is an impact with the audience. Some of you would have heard about this quote, a very powerful quote, which says that the world is shaped by two things: stories told and the memories that they leave behind. If you look at our journey, some of us would have had this experience, stories that grandmothers used to share. In our good old days, when we were younger, Dadi Ma Ki Kahaniyan, there used to be a series which used to come on television. And we were all excited to watch that because it had something. And the beauty about that was it always carried a message and it left a deep impact on us as kids and as learners. So today in this session, what I will attempt to do is bring to you some elements of storytelling, some elements of how to make sure that when you are preparing, when you're getting ready to live an impact, what is it that you need to keep in mind? So let's start with
Ini dibiningi ngi in ini dibiningi.
where do we start? We begin at the beginning. Often we struggle, and when I say we, all of us have gone through that stage and phase where it becomes so difficult that I'm not able to think about a topic. I'm not able to do what to do next. Right? So we go back to the drawing board, and it's said the most important lesson in speech writing. Today we all are used to typing it on a computer, but speech writing requires you to actually jot down certain points, whichever format you use, whether it is a notebook like I do, or a pen, paper in the digital format, which is your keyboard and any form of digital notepad that you have. So it all begins with the story, isn't it? There needs to be a story. So when we look at story, I was thinking, how do I make this interesting for everyone? Right? S is what makes the entire thing. There's a noise in the background. Sorry. Could I request those who are not speaking to put on mute, please?
Everybody, please go on mute. Everyone, please go on mute.
Who's this system?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. So I was thinking, how do I make it impactful so that it stays in your mind in terms of when you start writing or start thinking about a speech, the key elements that you need to keep in mind. And to summarize, I thought it's easy to have an acronym called as STORY, S-T-O-R-Y. S stands for the subject that you want to talk about. P stands for the time you invest in writing or thinking about the speech. O is very interesting, which many of us tend to forget, is omit the unwanted. When you think about any story, any incident, there are thousands of thoughts that come into your mind. What do you retain? What do you let go is important. So omitting what is unwanted, which doesn't create that impact, which doesn't have any impact on the other parts of the story, needs to be omitted. R is about the right tone. Now, people often get confused with the word tone. Tone is not just about the voice of speaking. It's about the way in which the message gets conveyed. It's the way in which people understand, receive, and accept what you are conveying. Words have power. We have heard this so many times. When we write, remember this golden rule: always write for the ear. It's important that when you sit down to write in any form, whether it's a pen and paper form or a digital form, if someone is on the other side with closed eyes, when you narrate the story, is the person able to visualize everything? I take you back to Dadi Ma Ki Kahaniyan, where When the story was told, there was so much of vivid imagery that we were in the story all the time, right? There was exaggeration for sure, but it made us feel that, oh wow, we are so much in the story. And last but most important part, which I believe many of us struggle, is being ourselves or be you. We want to copy someone else. And let me tell you, that is a sure shot success for failure. I know it's a contradictory statement, sure shot success for failure. But what it indicates is when you try to copy someone else, you're not genuine, you're not authentic. There is no credibility attached to what you're delivering. I may be excellent in memorizing a story from somewhere and delivering it. But always remember, when you go out and deliver, your body also speaks. And when it is not aligned to your own story, there is this gap, and people will easily make it out saying that this is not a story that you are connected to. I can pick up a story from, let's say, Akshaya and share it with pride. People may love it, but the authenticity will not come in. I will practice, but it's not my story. So it's important that when I deliver a story, I am sure about the subject matter that I'm talking about. I invest the right amount of time in preparation, practicing. Both are important. Preparation is maybe writing it down and then practicing the delivery. Girija in the morning sent some video links. I don't know how many of you got a chance to go through it. I was there live yesterday in Powai where we had a screening for the World Championship and we were all excited. We were there live as it happened. And every story was different. There were elements where people omitted certain aspects, but one golden rule that they followed was they invested time in preparing and practicing their story. So make sure that you are willing to do all of that. Everyone says that I never have time for doing this. I don't have time to practice. It's all in the mind. It all depends on how you want to be seen as. How do you want to be looked upon as? I can tell you my story. When I started my journey with Toastmasters, I would always have a storyline ready for a speech to be delivered. I'll print it in 1x4, in the sense 4 pages printed into one A4 size paper, fold it and keep it in my pocket. And every single time I had free time to spare, I'd pull that out, go through the speech, internalize it, and mentally prepare. And if you had 10 minutes, then probably I would put the video on. Those days, we used to create a YouTube channel, record a video, and see how it was being delivered. Today, we have devices where you can connect with a friend and get feedback immediately. We have the tools, right? It's all about how you use the tools that are available for you. How many of you have a challenge selecting the topic? No one? Nice. Excellent. I always have a challenge selecting a topic. The reason is I keep thinking, should the topic be inspiring? Should the topic be entertaining? Should the topic be informative? Should it be persuading? Krish, yes, you raised your hand. You have a challenge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's a difficult task, right? We have Amit also saying that. We have Verve saying it. Yes, most of us, Rajnandini. Now, why is it becomes a challenge is there are so many elements that we need to look at. But let me tell you, there is no single topic which will be purely entertaining. There will be no simple topic which will be persuading or just inspiring. There will be a blend of all of these in some form or the other. It's about what is the focus area that you need to bring into the speech that will help you decide what the topic should be. So let's try to understand one interesting aspect. Now, here is where I want participation from all of you. As a kid, we used to play this game. I don't know how many of you play this right now because digital world things have changed. We used to have a game called as Dippy Dippy, which color do you want? Girija is laughing, but it's a funny game, but let me ask you, and you can unmute yourself and respond. When you think of the particular item that I'm talking about, what is the color that comes to your mind? Okay. Banana.
Yellow. 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 Yellow.
Yellow.
White.
Yellow.
White. Wow. Someone said white. Excellent. Peeled banana is white. Okay. That's an interesting perspective. Fantastic.
Red.
Red.
Black.
Black.
Green.
Green. And what about apple?
Red.
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 Yellow.
White.
Green.
Red. Black and
green.
Excellent.
green.
So as you can see, majority by default, we go for what we have always seen as the natural color. If I tell you a crow is white, many of you will say, hey, kya mazak kar rahe hai kya? Isn't it? Because we are used to associating the color black with a crow. And the same thing happens when we think of anything else. Girija mentioned about a red banana. There is a red banana, there is a green apple, and there may be multiple colors that exist. And this is where the beauty of your speech comes in, where you have to create that vivid imagery. If you remember Dadi Ma Ki Kahaniyan that I spoke about, it is all about creating the imagery for the audience. You take them through a journey as if through your own eyes. And in that, the banana could even be a black colored banana. I'm sure there would be some country which would have a black color banana. I have not seen it personally, but yeah, it's an interesting look at how bananas could be seen as. Now, what is the key messaging from here is when you begin to write your story, you need to be very sure of the direction in which the story should travel. If you start by a lot of assumptions, saying everyone knows that banana is yellow in color or green in color or white in color, then you're not really doing justice to your speech. And that is where I would request all of you to start thinking about building this imagery for the audience through words. Paint a picture is what I would like to call. And then there is this big challenge, right? When we think of topics, immediately what happens is students these days, ChatGPT is there, you have Google, you just search and which topic should I speak on? And it will throw up a lot of topics and you can then start actually writing a speech on ChatGPT. But that's not the intent. The intent is to bring about original ideas, very similar to what TEDx says, right? Original ideas, concepts to the highlight. Now, some of these are very simple topics. How are volcanoes formed? You can write speech on it. You will find so much of material. Is it inspiring? Not really. Is it informative? Yes, obviously. Can it be made entertaining? Yes, possibly. If you use certain props and bring in an element of theatrics, you can make it entertaining as well. Now, the question is, would you want to classify your speech into these topics, which are standard, cliched, or you want to look at what Girija sent yesterday, today morning. I'm still yesterday because the speech contest was yesterday. The topics, all three winners, the first, second, and third place winners, they had amazing topics. The third place winner's speech title was, "You Have No Idea." Absolutely. When you hear that title, we have no idea what she's talking about, but we know that we definitely don't have an idea. So we need to be hooked on. And she started off the speech with a hook in her speech. Then we had Nisha, who spoke about swipe. The title of her speech was Swipe. Now, when I think of swipe, there are multiple aspects or perspectives. Swipe could be the new app that people use for hooking up with people, or it could be the credit card swipe, any element. Now there is a sense of curiosity that is built in me. And I want to know where would Nisha take me through her story. And then we had the winner whose title was very, very powerful. And we were laughing when post the speech, we did an analysis and the title of her speech was, "Have you been there?" Now, have you been there? It's an invitation. It's like saying, okay, I was there. Have you been there? It could be inspiring. It could be informative. It could be entertaining. It could be a mix of all. And that's where everyone was hooked on to say, where is she taking me with this title? And I will tell you, the moment she started, we were a bit confused. Is this direction that she wants to go or the other direction? But the way she started building it up, building that curiosity, bringing in an element of suspense, made it all the more interesting for us as the member in audience. And that's what I would say. There are topics which are standard, but what's important for you is to stand out and be noticed. Because if you really want to create an impact, it needs to be different from others. Otherwise, everyone will say, "Arey, the same." It looks like, well, I'm just taking names from people who I can. Oh, it looks like Siddharth's speech. Oh, it looks like Krish's speech. Oh, Girija also said the same thing. And then someone comes up with something very different. And wow, Shanaya, wow, fantastic. Yeah, this is something very different. And the audience gets hooked on. We have always been told, right? We need to stand out from the crowd. If we don't stand out from the crowd, we will just become a face in the crowd. And when you're delivering a speech, you need to keep that in mind. But always remember, as someone had said, the audience is the most important ingredient in the entire process. You can be standing out by delivering a talk which no one understands. You will still stand out, but your impact is zero. Imagine if, for example, I am an engineer and I talk on a topic on engineering in front of doctors. For some time, they may feel connected. After a point, they will lose interest because they don't see any sort of a connect. Unless I bring in some elements of engineering into what they do in their day-to-day lives. And that is what a good story has the power for connecting and creating an impact. So let's look at what are the key elements that we should have in our story. Participants, please let me know. What do you think? What are the key elements?
Surprise.
Surprise.
Good opening.
Opening, surprise.
A
Okay.
plot twist.
Sorry?
Twist in the story.
Twist in the story. Okay. What else?
A message or a purpose.
Message or a purpose.
A moral.
Sorry,
Wonder.
I couldn't hear.
A moral.
Moral. Okay. Okay. Interesting thoughts coming in. Now look at your story. Okay. If you were to create a story, do you think all of this would be possible? I can understand opening, body, conclusion has to be there. But will it always have a twist? Probably no. Will it always have a surprise element? Probably no. Will it always have a moral? Probably no. And this is where I want to bring you to something very interesting, which is how do I look at the topic which the audience can also connect with, and at the same time give me satisfaction that I am telling my story which the audience can connect with. A show of hands and audio is very good if you can speak up. How many times have you been in a storytelling session where you felt connected. Wonderful story. It may not have been a story that you have experienced, but you felt connected with the story. I have. Fantastic. And how many times have you been in a system or a session where you felt, yaar, ye kya ho raha hai? Kya bol raha hai? What is this that this guy is trying to say or this girl is trying to say? We've been there, right? So it's not necessary that just because you have a very powerful story or a good story, it will connect and resonate with the audience. So let me ask a simple question. How many of you want to have the best topic for a speech? इसके ऊपर तो कुछ नहीं होगा. This is the A-class topic. Nothing can beat it. I can see some hands
Mandal
going up.
wants to say something. Unmute and talk directly, quickly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Krish?
I would take one more topic instead of just taking one if somebody just said it.
Could you repeat it, please? I couldn't hear your voice.
I prefer to take my own topic than some better topic which I've not made myself.
Perfect. So we all know, right? When we talk from the heart, it connects well because I don't need to prepare. It's a story which I'm so connected with. When I say prepare, I'm not talking about the preparation for delivery. I know the sequence of events. I know how things have happened. So there is no fake preparation to say, sorry to use this, but for your exams, you need to write it in a sequence. If the sequence is missed out, you don't get marks. But when you're delivering a story, when you are writing that speech, you know the flow of events, you know how it has been. Because as I said earlier, it's all about what you have experienced, not about what someone else has done. So imagine if I have Krish's story, which Krish gave it to me to review, and I'll use that and deliver it. It may look and sound excellent, but as I said, it will not feel connected. It will feel as if someone put a gun on me and said, read this speech out and ... So I'll be forced. There will be no authenticity in the way it gets delivered. So let's look at how do I bring an intersection of finding the right topic. And let me tell you, there is no golden rule, but this is just a guidance in terms of helping you understand what are the key aspects that you need to be aware of when you are starting to write down that speech. S, subject matter expert. Remember that, right? First of the story. So what's important to know is there are topics that you know. There are so many topics. As I said, you think about it. You're all studying and there are subjects which you like. So there would be topics which you are so passionate about. Even if I wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you will be so well prepared that you can deliver a 15-minute talk on that topic. And then there are topics that you love. Now, is there a difference between topic that you know and a topic that you love?
Yes, sir. Topics that you love would be something which comes from your heart, but topic it could be something like you just know it by reading it.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. And
Sir,
is there something common, not common between topics you know and topics you love?
In topics you know, it might not be a topic that you love. For example, when you're studying in school, I bet everybody can relate to this. So you're preparing very well for exams, and you know the topic very well, but you may not like it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Topic you love is something which I'm passionate about, right? I may not know everything about it. And then there are topics which I know everything, but I don't really love it. For example, I may score 100 out of 100 in maths. I know a lot about maths, but do I really love it? Not everyone would say yes to that, right? Cricket lovers in this house? How many cricket lovers? We have Swaroop, who's a cricket lover. No. Ritesh, Rajnandini, Ayush. Okay. Now in
Sir, I
cricket,
am swimming lover.
you are a
Swimming lover.
fantastic. So if you are someone who loves cricket, do you know there is a concept called as Duckworth-Lewis method? You heard of Duckworth-Lewis method? Yes, no. Amit has heard. Amit, what is Duckworth-Lewis method?
Yes.
If it is raining, like the score which you have to, the total score which you have to chase, the score is half and the overs are also half.
Perfect. Now you love cricket, right? And you know and you understand the topic. But imagine if I invite you and ask you to talk about Duckworth-Lewis method for even 5 to 7 minutes. How comfortable would that be for you?
So actually I don't love cricket.
Perfect. No one knows, right? That's how it is. No one knows. We all know that there is something this happens, but we have not invested time to understand the topic. I love cricket. I know this exists, but it's okay. Then there is something very, very important which someone had said right at the start is the topics that the audience loves or cares about. And that, my dear friends, is the area which we need to focus on. This particular concept is called as a Venn diagram, where you try to find the intersection, and that is the golden spot where you will find people interested, which is topics you know, topics you love, and the topics the audience cares about. And if you have to make that difference, you need to choose most of your topics in this region. But the problem is, not every speech topic will be in this. You need to therefore focus on the audience and the topics you know. Try to move from the pink color to the green here, or topics the audience care about and topic you love, and try to move from the blue to the green here. But if it is in the yellow, you lose your audience, which means you are talking passionately about something and no one in the audience cares, saying, well, okay, you have been given some time slot, just keep speaking. I'm sure as students, sometimes you would have had events in your school where someone comes and delivers a talk where you're saying, how does it connect to me? What difference does it make to me? And remember, irrespective of how well you prepare, how much investment of time you make in, you can never ever achieve the 100% intersection of this. What is important for you as a speaker, as a speech writer, is to focus on what is the maximum number of people that I can impact through my speech. My aim is never 100%. If we try to get 100%, we will never be there. You've been at Toastmasters meeting, Gavel Club meetings, and you get feedback. Now that feedback is the most important ingredient that will help you move towards the intersection of the three aspects: topics you know, topics you love, and topics that the audience care about. But getting feedback is not enough. You need to implement those feedback, apply it, practice it, and then deliver again. Most of the times, people take the feedback, keep it in their book or keep it in their digital notepad, forget about it. But the best speakers are those who not only accept feedback, but they implement it and then they go back and cross-check, have I made a difference from the last time? I can give an example of Nisha. Nisha's speech I had seen at one of the clubs when she was practicing. The way it was there and the way it was delivered yesterday, huge difference. That was because there was so much of feedback. And remember, each one of us are unique. So what aligns for Siddhant, what aligns for Girija, what aligns for Verb are different. I need to be connected. I need to know, okay, how do I bring Ishan into my speech and say, Ishan, are you connected to my speech? And that is the feedback that I get from Ishan, where Ishan says, you know what, these are the things that I like, but this is something which I felt was there's no connect. So when I go back, I look at how do I bring that element of feedback from Ishan to my speech, sharpen it, and then continue to deliver. A famous management guru, Stephen Covey, had said that one of the key tools to keep you ahead of everyone else is to sharpen the saw. Make sure you keep sharpening the saw. The feedback that you get are those, points of sharpening. And the more you incorporate feedback from the audience, however small it may seem to you, right? For example, I remember one member, when we asked for a feedback, she said that mere feedback se kya hoga? What would happen with my feedback? That's a wrong notion. When we think of any speech, any connect, we need to think of the larger audience. As I said, we will not be able to touch everyone, but we will know at least what is it that aligns and connects with the audience, and how do I move towards it and make sure that the person feels included in my speech. I can exclude certain things. The one interesting anecdote that I want to share with all of you, I have a friend, Patrick Pereira. He was a member of Accenture Toastmasters then. Patrick and I, we were invited to a corporate club, L&T. Those days, it was in Powai. And we were given topics. I was the speech evaluator. Patrick was the general evaluator. And the speaker, before I get there, Patrick and I, we are pure non-vegetarians. Pure non-vegetarians, not vegetarians. So we love non-veg food. We love when there is something different that is made available. And guess what happened? The speaker, she went on to talk about how everyone should give up eating meat. Imagine being there in the audience. I am sitting right in front of the speaker and she's telling me, Brillian, you should stop eating meat. You should give up. I looked at Patrick. Patrick looked at me. We smiled at each other. Had it not been a Toastmasters meeting, we would have switched ourselves off. Isn't it? Because now, without taking my consent or without involving me, the person directly started telling me what to do. And when that happens, please remember, you should never tell anyone what to do. It should come in through as a motivation, as an inspiration, that they should feel that they should do it. But because we were Toastmasters, we laughed it off and we continued the journey. If I don't care about the topic, you are continuing to speak, you're continuing to deliver, which may seem like the best speech of your life, but I am not there. Right? So we need to be cautious about it. Now, there is a way and means through which you can involve me into that topic. Maybe you start by asking me certain questions. Why is it that you are liking so much? What is it that makes a difference to you? How do you think you can make an impact? And then probably, prod me by saying, do you think you want to make a change in your lifestyle? Do you want to make this? Do you want to do this? When I am involved, I will probably stay hooked on. But if I start by saying, for example, someone in this room may love pizzas. Okay. For the lack of anyone else, I see Idant on screen right now. So Idant loves pizzas and burgers. And I say, Idant, you should stop eating pizzas and burgers. I start with that. Idant is shut off saying, he's asking me to do something which I don't like. Right? So I need to start by asking Idant, I have seen you gorge on pizzas and burgers. What is it that you like about it? And what happens if I tell you there is an alternate medium which can give you the same taste, the same experience without the negative aspects of the fast food? Now, what is happening is Idant is now thinking about an alternate option. Rather than me forcing something, I have given him a choice to select. And always remember, audience has to get the choice to be in your speech. It should not be forced. So let's look at understanding how do I make sure that as a speech writer, as a delivery person for the speech, how do I build the flow? Flow is important, isn't it? I cannot randomly talk about 2, 3 things. It's not stand-up comedy, right? There's a huge difference. Stand-up comedy, what happens? People come in, share 4 or 5 jokes, people laugh, end of the story. But when you get into storytelling mode, there needs to be a flow. There needs to be some element of sequencing. Otherwise, it's like you're here now, you're going there, and you get confused. Should I be here or should I be there? And then you get asked by the winner, have you been there? And you're like, no, I was there. You called me here now. So should I be here or there? Always remember, never confuse the audience. You build the flow so that audience knows that it's a sequential journey or a journey which takes me to a lot of things that can be there. And what is important for you when you build that is to talk about inclusion. We just gave that example, right, with Idan or with me. Make sure that you're bringing in the element of inclusion. Make sure that your speech content and the topic is suitable for the audience. Some of you are students and have not gone through, let's say, advanced levels of ChatGPT. And if I deliver a speech on ChatGPT, 80% of you would be audience who will feel, yeah, this is not a topic which is suitable for us at this point of time. Some of you may be interested, but I'll not be able to build that connect because of suitability. So when I'm building the flow, now, why have I kept entertaining at the center? Why have I kept entertaining at the center? And what does entertaining mean? Any ideas? Anyone who wants to say?
Making it look fun, making it more understandable to for it
Perfect.
should be like kids should be having fun understanding this.
Absolutely. It's all about enjoyment, right? Entertainment is not about the dance and music and all of that. It's about having fun when you're delivering. And if you're able to have fun, it becomes entertaining for you first. If it is entertaining for you, it becomes entertaining for others as well. So don't get confused by entertaining as the movie kind of entertaining, but it's something which helps you bridge the gap. When you have fun, when people laugh, when people are entertained, not in the movie kind of entertainment perspective, people feel included. They feel a connect and they feel, wow, this is interesting. If you remember the 3 speech titles, you have idea. And thing I, internalizes, I have Vodafone idea. There's some connect which is coming. And we laughed. Nisha said swipe. The first thing I was thinking, is she talking about Tinder or is she talking about a credit card? And then Jocelyn, she said, have you been there? And I'm like, where? Bahamas? Of course, no. I couldn't be there in Bahamas, but I was at Bokoni. So Bahamas came to Bokoni. So some of these thoughts come in. What is happening is she is actively engaging me right from the word go. And that has to be your go-to guide when you're writing the speech. I know building the plot is important. And when we talk of a plot, it's not the plot where you build buildings, but you need to build the structure for your speech. And we've discussed this. People have mentioned you need to have an opening, you need to have the body, you need to have some stories, you need to engage. And that is the core of the plot. How many of you believe a great opening captivates the audience? I believe so. Perfect.
I also believe so, sir.
Perfect. And why do you feel a captivating opening is important?
because it at the start captures people into an interest in this, so that's why they won't just be like, oh, this is like, if you have a bad opening, then people will just assume that entire speech is bad. If you have a good opening, they will pay attention and try to find out the hidden meanings.
Perfect, perfect. So, look at some of the greatest speeches. The opening is so powerful. I have a dream, for example. Now, when you say, I have a dream, everyone knows, I also have a dream. Now, what is the dream? How do I connect? Friends, Romans, countrymen. Now, what is happening is you're building that inclusivity. You're trying to connect with something very powerful. And that is important for you. Once you have noted down the flow, the structure, it's important to work on your opening. Many of us tend to say, our opening, it's okay, I'll just write. You start in a narrative manner. You start by saying, once upon a time in a land far, far away. It is so cliched that everyone knows this is how the stories begin. But imagine you write a story with saying, thud. The sound of the coconut falling on his head woke me from the dream. Now, what I have done is, I have created an impact by saying thud. It's hitting you on the head, and you can at least visualize. The opening has now captivated the audience to think about what is coming next. Right? So, as a storyteller, start looking at how do you change the narrative from being seen as just a scripted narrative to an impactful opening. So we'll look at each of these elements and try to understand how do we make it better each time, right? So how do I look at an opening? What needs to be there? As I said earlier, it sets the tone. It must be engaging. Someone mentioned, right? It keeps you looking forward to saying, what is next? I am hooked on to the story. And then once you have had that opening hook done, it's important to make sure that the hook continues. So your structure or the body should have all the other elements with regards to the key topic. Whatever you have thought of. For example, when it was swipe, Nisha's story, she continued to bring in the supporting element of saying the Shelly, the person who she met at the airport, she kept asking her for a card because she was carrying cash and the counters would not accept cash. So she had to swipe. So each time there was reinforcing elements supporting the topic. Most important is you build that imagery. And when she spoke about Shelly was a short girl. It's vividly there in my mind. She is this Asian woman and she is a bit kind of nosy, old kind of a person. And she created that imagery for me. I don't see Shelly in the room. I only see Nisha. And then once everything is done, you need to make sure that your package is powerful by ensuring the conclusion is strong. You may have a great opening, exceptional stories, everything is there, but if you don't close it right, it will fall flat. There needs to be a focused effort to reinforce on certain things, to summarize what's happened. Reinforcement is important because the audience need to loop back to what you started. So if you started with a third, reinforce on what that third meant to you, how that third could change, and what is it that you want the audience to do. That is the key for you in terms of writing. Some of you said that there should be a moral, there should be a message, there should be a twist, there should be a surprise. It could be anything. Now, during the conclusion, you can twist the story, saying that third was not an actual third, but a wake-up sign for me. So from a physical third, it's moved into a psychological thud to say, oh wow, it was a wake-up call. There is a key messaging saying that we are all so engrossed in what we are doing that we tend to forget looking at some of the finer elements. When we think of stories, I'll tell you a couple of elements which will help you. Now, there is this anchor approach, which will have actors, actions, and results. In any story, like we've always heard, there is a hero, there is a villain. Hero is a generic term. I'm not using it as a gender specific term, but there is someone who's a hero or a female hero, male hero, it doesn't matter. But there is an actor, there are some actions, and there is a result. If you have seen the good old videos, मैं पहले बहुत परेशान था. And then there is some transformation that happens, and then they say, अब मैं बिल्कुल बदल गया हूँ. So there is this black box, that is the action that happens, and that is the anchor approach that you use. Then you have a problem solution approach, where you talk about a problem, what are the actions you take, and what is the result. So for example, you have no idea speech was about a problem that the speaker faced, what actions she took or people around her helped her take, and what was the end outcome. You can use a mix and match of these approaches. But what's important is there needs to be something that has been actioned. It cannot be, I woke up today, I had breakfast, I studied, I went to play, I came back, I took a bath, I slept, I woke up, I played. Is it adding any value to me? I'm not sure. You're just telling me a sequence of events. Now, sequence of events is good if you're just telling it as a report. But if you're telling it as a story, I need to understand what is it in it for me to connect with you for the story to take to the logical conclusion. Right? So, sure, Ishan, you can leave. Siddharth, you raised your hand?
Yeah, sir, I had a question.
Yes, please.
Well, like, how do you know, like, what topic to select? Like, because I don't really know how to connect to them. It's like, how do you make that connection? Like,
Sure.
which
So,
topic to speak about?
you remember those 3 circles, the Venn
Yeah.
diagram? Now, give me something which you have it as a topic right now.
Me.
Anything which you want to speak on.
About stars.
Stars, okay? Now, when you think about stars, is it a topic that you love or is it a topic that you know about?
I love.
You love, which means you need to put some effort to know about the topic. Now, if this is the audience, how many of us would be willing to listen to a story on stars? Right? You don't know at this point of time. So what you have to do is you will have to do an assessment to understand how do I make it interesting for a person brilliant who may or may not like stars. So what do? Because I love stars, I'll do some research and then I think about what are the areas that I can make it go back to that inspiring, information, entertaining, motivating. What is the element that can hook Brillian onto my story? If you're making it purely informative, I may or may not be there. But if you make it entertaining along with informative, I'll be hooked on. So for example, you can start off by, let's say, a small exercise to say, how many of us here have seen stars? I'm sure most of us will raise our hands, right? We have. Now, what I have done with this exercise is I have built a connect to know how many members in the audience knows about stars. Then I ask a second question. Do you know, I'm just making this up, maybe there is nothing like this. Have you heard about this superstar named XYZ? And then the number of hands will go down. So you know that the members in the audience do not know. So when you plotted that Venn diagram, You love this topic, you got some information. Now to bring the audience part, you need to put some effort. So what you do is do some more research about what is it that the audience will like to know so that they stay engaged. And let me tell you, it's not about the topic more so than the way in which you want to present it. You need to make sure that you remember that inclusion part which I mentioned about inclusion, connect. Sometimes I may know nothing about the topic, but because you're talking about it, I feel involved, and you're talking about something which may be of interest to me. And that's how I start writing. And let me tell you, it is not a guarantee that irrespective of what you try, whichever methodology, you will find 100% success. We have to start somewhere. So first time when I wanted to talk about a topic which was on myopia. You know about myopia? It's a eyesight related problem. You know, you can't see distance which are far off, things which are far off. Now, myopia in itself, when I think of it, people are saying, yaar, tujhe hi nahi dikhai de raha hai, to dusron ko kya dikhayega tu? Right? If you are not able to see, how will you make the others see? So, how do I make it interesting for the topic, for the audience? That's when I try to bring in a prop. Maybe the doctor has that, if you remember, letters that they show, E, F, G, D, K, E, C, B, C, N, right? Maybe you bring that as a prop and do something to generate that curiosity. Okay, so it needs to be a focused effort to understanding that. And I'll share one video in this session itself where we'll see how the speaker has actually made the effort to share something very simple as a story, but making it connect with us as the member in audience. Okay, so it will give you a sense of how you too can prepare on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And then there is this 3 acts approach, which is Romeo Juliet. Most of you would have had something similar. Romeo Juliet falling in love. Then there is Romeo marries Juliet against the family. And then the last is the conclusion. Now, conclusion could also be a twist. Someone had mentioned, right? Twist is important. So you can say that Romeo kills the villain. Now, everyone is thinking Romeo will die. But in your story, Romeo kills the villain. What you have done is, kahani mein twist. You brought in a plot which no one was expecting. And that again connects with the audience. And when you have all of these defined, and as I said, it's not that you only need to follow one part of it. You can blend all 3, look at what works for the story that you have to share. It's important that you pen it down effectively. I said this earlier, you have to pen it for the year. You need to use words which are simple, understandable. Yes, I understand that some of us would love to use language which is high in vocabulary, but will that really help? Not everyone will understand. Not everyone is Shashi Tharoor. There is someone in the audience who will say, yaar, ye samajh mein nahi aaya. I need to look up the dictionary. Now, the moment that happens, you lose the audience connect. So when you're writing, choose words which are simple, something which can connect with the audience and give them a sense of understanding ki haan yaar, ye mere liye bhi story hai. And please remember, this is one of the best rules that I have ever experienced at Toastmasters or anywhere. It's not about what you want to say. It's about how you say it that makes a difference. The way in which it gets conveyed makes the biggest impact. You can say the same thing in 10 different styles, but how it gets said is what makes the difference. Keeping it simple, easy to understand, using some metaphors, alliteration, some figures of speech, which can help people remember what you're saying. There was this fantastic storyline that happened yesterday. Some of us were there and I had noted it down and I want to share this with you. Just give me 1 second as I pull this out. This is an interesting thing, right? Imagine this. This is from the actual story that were shared yesterday. Baggy clothes and shabby bags. It looks like a rhyming word, right? Now you are hooked on saying, "Arey wah, baggy clothes, shabby bags, rap song aane wala hai." Then there was something which went, when we want what we want, we fear what we fear. We know all of this, but when it is emphasized, reinforced, it hits. Then there was this interesting story about a caterpillar and a butterfly, which said, struggle with confidence because it doesn't rustle with comparison. A caterpillar doesn't struggle with confidence because it doesn't rustle with comparison, which means there is a struggle, but it doesn't look at saying, "Acha, bhala uski saadi se meri saadi safed kaise?" They're not getting into comparison. It's just saying, I am okay the way I am. Initially, it hits you hard, but then it stays back, saying, wow, what a wonderful story. And there was this one statement which said, I decided to settle for silence. In a world that is chaotic, settle for silence hit me hard, saying, wow, everyone wants to be active, everyone is talking about this, but settle for silence made me get onto the story back again. And when we are writing for the year, what is important is we need to make sure that we engage the listener effectively. We make it conversational. As I said, you can just read from a script. It will not be helpful. So I'll give you one simple example, and don't feel offended. Many a times we get, let's say, people's introductions in 5 pages. Now, if you really want to make a difference, from the 5 page, you pick up interesting stories and present it in a 30-second format, which captures the gist of what the person wants to share. I was at a session in the year 2014 when one of the speakers' introduction went on for 5 minutes because the person had given them 6 pages of introduction of what all the person had done. And I, being in the audience, I was actually zoned out. I said, boss, abhi isse zyada abhi kuch nahi, khatam, story khatam. I didn't even bother to listen to that story. And make it simple. We said this right. Open high. Create that impact. It should be something which the audience is saying, oh, wow. Make it vivid. Dadi maa ki kahaniyan. Now, this is some sample opening lines. And for the sake of experimentation, this is not an in-person session, so I'll not get to know. But I would want you to close your eyes. And as I read these statements, think about the imagery that gets built in. Okay, I'm trusting you to close your eyes for now as I read these statements. Close your eyes. 24th August 2013, 7:30 a.m. Braving the 7-degree chill, 3,000 people merged towards the gates. That night in Chicago, I was changed by a tire. 366 BC, a young Macedonian prince slept with a dagger under his pillow. Open your eyes. The 3 statements gave you some sense of imagery, right? 24th August. Now look at it, the specificity of it. 7:30 a.m. 7-degree chill, which means it is cold. For us Indians, 7 degrees is too much to handle. 3,000 people merged towards the gate. There is an imagery that is created. That night in Chicago, I was changed by the tire. Now, what am I thinking about, right? Now, this is where everything that we spoke about comes into play. building that imagery for the audience. 366 BC, Macedonian prince slept with a dagger under his pillow. Again, creating vivid imagery. So when you paint a picture, you need to make sure that you give the audience nothing to think of, right? You give them as much information, as much details as possible that can generate the anxiety, curiosity, and engagement in the speech or that imagery that you're building. These are some examples. 5'7", ragged clothes, thick rimmed glasses, eyes popping out, wearing David of cool water, tight white pant, tweed leather shoes, bright red flowery shirt, Govinda in English, green fleshy guavas, delicately pink inside, right? Those who love those elements, you're already starting to experience the guavas, fresh guavas. Now, to get the story right, you need to follow this part and you will remember how it works, right? It starts with what is the background for the story, what is the action, the build up, you reach a peak, and then you start towards concluding by saying, I faced this problem, this is what I resolved, and this is the outcome. So it's a journey, it's a sine wave in a crooked format. Now, if you have to get your story right, you need to have the background right. And please remember, your timeline is 5 to 7 minutes most of the time. So within 5 to 7 minutes, how do you build it up? How do you make sure there is action, there is build up, there is the peak that you reach, the problem that you solve, the resolution that you found, and the conclusion or call to action, as people call, that you get into the story. Now, one element is writing. The second element is delivery. Now, this is just a bonus tip that I'm sharing with all of you. You need to use your body language effectively, even when you're in a virtual screen. If possible, stand up and deliver. Make sure there is distance enough for you to use gestures aligned to the speech. Use your voice effectively. Do you want to whisper or do you want to scream out? Build that vividity. So your delivery becomes the powerful tool that aids your content. Your content is king, but your delivery is the one thing that will help push the content up into the rocket of Chandrayaan to land on the moon. As someone had said, aim for the sky. If not the sky, you will still reach higher. So you have to make sure that your delivery is enhanced. So some of the things that you need to look at, and this I'll quickly run through. Be in control of your breathing. One of the speeches, Jocelyn, she almost ran out of breath when she was speaking yesterday. Have pauses for impact. When you have a powerful point, you stop right there and wait for the audience response, or then you jump into the next. Make sure you have that energy in your voice. It should feel as it is coming from you, not something which is faked and saying, Chalo yaar, ho gaya to ho gaya. Build a body language which is very positive. In the virtual world, it's very difficult to build eye connect, right? So look at the camera lens. That's the one way of saying, I am looking at you. Many times people have said, Arey, this person seems to be reading from a book, but we get carried away. If my screen is dispersed and I have multiple people around, I'll not go looking at, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. I'll just look at the lens. Everyone knows that I'm looking at them. So build the tools and techniques in the virtual world that can help you. Balance it out. Don't make it overburdening for you. Sometimes we get carried away. We've seen it, right? Ekdam jada theatrics. That's not good. If it is relevant and if it is required, relevant and required. These are the two words that you should remember. Go ahead and do it. Please, please, please never get carried away by impressing people. Focus on expressing yourself because it helps build credibility for you. when you have original stories, when you talk about statistics, when you talk about being simple, your aim is to connect with the audience. Make it real for me as a member in the audience, right? Because once you make it real, I connect. So if I'm in Mumbai and I talk about Mumbai railway train, I can connect very well with the audience. Feel the emotion and keep acknowledging. All through, I kept taking names of people in the audience. The reason was I wanted to engage with the audience. At the same time, I wanted the audience to know that I am also making an effort to look at whose video is on, who's nodding, who's doing this. It makes me feel good. Girija mentioned that let the speaker also feel that there is something happening. And please, 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 we know it's a virtual world. Don't just read it out. Speak. Make it narrative. Okay. Now, this is one speech analysis. I'll run the speech and then we will try to understand how it went for all of you.
Dhananjaya Hediarachi, I see something. I see something. Dhananjaya Hediarachi.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us has something special
Video is not visible.
that makes
Is it
us
meant like that?
as beautiful.
Sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Do you know what makes you special? Now the answer to that can be a little difficult to find, because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get mama. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops were afraid. She came up to me, held the iron bars, looked into my eyes, and I saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, "Son, I want you to be a better man." That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, "Son, it's okay. You flunked your exams. You already got arrested. That's fine. You get that from your mother's side. I want you to start working immediately." And I said, "Okay." So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He looked like a teddy bear. But this man was special. I looked at him and he looked at me. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something. And I was like, whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me. And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy. And it was much more interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great girl, but not a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Have you ever had that problem? And when you're lost, it's difficult to feel special. So I went back to my cool dad. And I said, Dad, I feel lost. He said, you are like your mother. So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name, with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a table topic. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back row. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, son, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, honey, why did you marry me? She says, I saw something in you. But I still don't know what it is.
Interesting story, isn't it?
Yes.
So now just look at some of the key elements, right? The opening. Was it engaging and entertaining? Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? You remember what he said? I have not shown the video. I just gave you the audio. You and I are like this flower. Vivid imagery. And you're thinking, acha, मैं भी flower हूँ, fool. Is he saying that I'm a fool? Hindi में flower को fool बोलते ना. So I start thinking on a different language. I'm thinking, अरे कहाँ लेके जा रहा है मेरे को? And then you remember behind iron bars. Put them all together, you get my mom. Then he said, joy, sorrow, shame, tears, right? All of these are building vivid imagery. The key element was supporting the topic of, I see something in you. I want to do something for you, but I still don't know what it is. And towards the conclusion, he did reinforce on the fact that I see something in you. Now, what does the message come out from this is transformation needs trust. People need to trust you. You need to trust people. It's only then that transformation happens. And when you look at the way in which the story was built, from nowhere, from being in jail to being here now. Now I'm a teacher, he said. Right? He built on the plot by saying, No one trusted him, but his father said, don't worry. The person, accountant trusted him. The member at Toastmasters trusted him. His wife trusted him. Everywhere he focused on the element and he showcased how he got himself transformed without knowing what people saw in him. And was it well written? Absolutely. Created a suspense. It engaged the audience right from the start. I felt it was conversational. Have you had, he asked the audience a question, were you ever lost? Right? We are there in that scenes thinking, oh wow, that makes you feel no complex words being used, but still the power of the speech being delivered. And he had a power statement, which was, I see something in you. Building that vivid imagery. Was it well expressed? Absolutely. Spoken from the heart. It was original story, the jail part, the Toastmasters meeting, the rose, what's unique. Feel the emotion, tears rolling down. When you did not have the video on, based on the storyline that he narrated, you could visualize, right? Tears falling down. And made it very credible and believable. Now that is how, irrespective of what kind of a story you think you have, if you're able to mold, Siddhant, connecting to what you had asked, right? This is a very simple story of how one person got arrested and then life changed for him because of XYZ. Very simple story. But the way in which he built in to engage, connect, and make sure that the audience is taken through this journey through his eyes, meant for the audience. He was able to redirect a new chart as a speaker. So please remember, each one of you have that opportunity to create something special. It doesn't need to be something which is already existing. It doesn't need to have a standard storyline that everyone else has seen. It could be very different, very unique. A swipe, for example, right? You have no idea. And I'm using this as relevant because we just heard it yesterday. Have you been there? You are asking a question which is so powerful that people will want to know, should I have been there? Right? This will come with practice. This will come with you attempting to do something different. If you keep doing the same things, you will get the same results every single time. So dear friends, next time when you set forth to write down your speech, keep these elements in mind. We may not get it right the first time around. We may not find the best speech that we've ever prepared. But with small changes in your speech, feedback brought in, implemented, trust me when I say this, you will change. Because I see something in you. But I also know what it is. Your intent to make a difference. Thank you so much. I'll now open up for questions. Any questions? We can have this discussion.
Let's have a good clap. It was very engaging. I request people in the audience, the Cavaliers, Toastmasters, guests, to ask questions.
Yes, Abhishek.
Thank you, Toastmaster Brilliant, for the wonderful training. A challenge that I face is, firstly, we start with the pathway. So it has certain instructions given to us, and we try to follow that as novice speakers. And as we start writing the speech with certain things in our mind, by the time the speech ends and we review it, or I review it, I start feeling that it's going in a very different direction. So like I was just writing a speech for Icebreaker of Engaging Humor. I wrote it, and when I reviewed it overnight, I felt that it's more of inspiring speech rather than a humorous speech. So
Thank you.
first thing is, how do we avoid, or should we go with the flow, then rework on the script to bring that focus element? As you mentioned that what is the focus element? Is it engaging humor? Is it adding some inspiration, persuasion? So should we just write and then focus on working on the speech, or should we channel it down through the beginning itself?
Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks for asking that question. So first and foremost, right, what is the core intent or objective? Is breaking ice or introducing yourself. The second element is to use humor. Now, if you flip it aside in terms of saying you need to have humor and then introduce, the way in which you start thinking changes. I was not naturally someone who would be comfortable with humor. I built it over a period of time. Not everyone has everything in them with regards to saying, okay, I need to be a motivational speaker, right? You have seen every second person I know writes that I'm a motivational speaker. I don't think I have it in me. But what I know is I love to have fun. So what I would suggest is, first is build the laundry list. Okay. I'll share some examples from my icebreaker. I had to talk about me. Now, first thing is make the title catchy. I have a wonderful subject line which gives me a speech title anytime. My name is Brillian, so I can use play of words. So my speech title for the first ever speech I delivered at Toastmaster was "That's Brilliant." Okay, I added that T. Now, does that give away a lot of things? Probably yes, probably no. Then I started. How do I start? I need to talk about the journey. So I spoke about how I was born in a location in Kerala, and then the story built on. Now, knowing the fact that I'm not naturally humorous, I forced myself to say, how do I change it? Generally, when babies are born, babies cry. I wanted to twist it. I said, that was the start, saying a baby laughing filled the lobby of Lakshmi Nursing Home in Kollam, Kerala. Now what happened is people were expecting something else and I said baby was laughing. So I tried to create a sense of laughter by invoking something which was slightly different. I did not cry, that was sure, because my father and mother told me that even when I was given those doses, I was laughing always. So I used that as a technique to create the opening. Use play of words. Use something which you are very comfortable with. Don't force yourself to bring humor when you're not naturally humorous. It's not about stand-up comedy. It's about finding relevance in which you can bring in comedy. So if you remember Dhananjay Atyarachi once again, how many of you have a cool mother? Right? Everyone would raise a hand. And now what did he do humorously? He said, put them all together and you get my mother. Now what he did is he used the concept of exaggeration to build humor. Wife, right? What did you see in me? He said, honestly, Annie, I saw something in you, but I don't know what it was. Now what he's doing is he's trying to play with certain elements. Now that doesn't force him to be humorous at that element. He's bringing in short bursts of humor which can align to the overall objectives. So don't get lost in the identification of just saying कि मुझे humorous speech ही करना है. Start with your core and then plug and play. थोड़ा थोड़ा इधर डालो, put something here, try and see if this can fit. If it doesn't go well with you, your style and the speech narrative, avoid it. One of the great humorous speakers that I have ever met, Chandil Kumar, he passed away last year. He used to always say, most important thing, irrespective of whether it's a humorous speech or a motivational speech, when in doubt, cut it out. Don't let that make you fall flat. So if you're able to focus on the narrative and try to bring in small elements, it should work for you.
Someone is still not muted. Please mute yourself. Please. People, I am not able to mute from here. So please mute yourself.
Any other questions? Any thoughts? Any ideas you got from today that you will implement? You can share that also. You can unmute yourself and you can speak. Yes, I can see Gavel Club of Amanora.
Yeah. Sorry, my name is Ayushi. Actually, my name
Ayushi.
is put after the name of my club.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. So the one thing which I would definitely implement is making my speeches and story sessions interactive, because I have given quite a few speeches in contests and even in the club. So I always try to add questions, but I realize that I never make it very interactive. So as you said, that making it interactive will engage the audience and gain their attention. So that is something I would definitely implement.
Thank you, Ayushi, for sharing that. Yes, Siddharth.
So, like, we can write on any topic, but we should know how to connect to the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
Yeah. Thank you, Brillian. It was a very wonderful training. It gave us a very good insights of writing a speech, wonderful speech. And my question is, we wrote a speech and we practiced well. During our delivery, we might tend to forget something, some matter. So how do you do? How do you remember everything during our speech? We may get tensed during delivery, speech delivery. How do you do that?
Ilayaraja, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Ilayaraja, for asking that question. So let me give you this very fantastic and most powerful tool that you can ever use. You are the only person who knows that you forgot your speech. No one else knows, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's natural for us to forget sometimes that, oh yaar, ye bolna tha. But unless you consciously bring in that to say, I forgot, you can quickly jump and say, okay, yeah, it happens. It's natural for all of us. When we are out there, it's not just butterflies, but there are dinosaurs. You think of all kind of animals all running through your stomach. And you're wondering, Are, kya karna hai? You may tend to forget. It's okay. Just skip to the part where you are comfortable and continue as if nothing happened. But if you stay stuck in saying, what was that word which I had written? Don't get carried away by the exact wordings. Stay true to the story, the core, because it's your story. That's why if you remember what I said, I can pick up a story from, let's say, Ved. I'll pick up his story and I'll deliver it. And if I forget, if I'm not Ved, I'll not know what to do. But if it was my story and I know this is an element which I forgot what I wanted to, I still know what was the next step. So I'll jump over it. So don't focus too much on the aspect that you need to remember everything verbatim. No one will be able to do it. We are not here for a poetry recital to say every word needs to be the same. It's your story. How the audience connects with you on the day of the event. Sometimes you may find something interesting happening on the ground and you may want to pick it up and say, exactly this thing happened with me when I was trying to do this. Right? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to build my story on the fly, but it will take some practice to become 100% impromptu. I'm not saying you should do that. It's a prepared speech. You are the one who knows your speech end to end. So don't let the audience know or think that you forgot. Jump on to the next possible one which you know. And if you remember and you feel it's a relevant point, you come back and say, oh, you know what? Just like every other human being, I am forgetful. I forgot about this, but it was important. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to laugh at myself, saying that even I am human. I can forget. And then I bring that element back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Verb.
Verb?
Yeah, like Siddharth said, connecting to people, from where would you get the connection?
Connection can come in through multiple aspects. So I'll take the same speech of Dhananjaya Hetiyarachi, right? Now look at it, how he started building the story. Now he said, mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and you're thinking third wala kya hoga? Tears of shame. There is that connect that is building, saying, oh, matlab, my mother would have been ashamed at times when she cried. Right? We never got into that. Then he said, fellow flowers. Now, he's trying to build that connect and say, I am a flower, so are you. We are all something similar but unique. Have you had a mother who was emotional?
Wow.
Now, what he's trying to do is, he's trying to assess. He never said, and please remember, words make a difference. It is not how many of you. He said, have you? So it's personal to me. But when he wanted to exaggerate, how many of you think your mothers are emotional? And there was a raise of hand. Put them all together, right? So what he's doing is, he's trying to understand where I should connect with the individual and where I should connect with the group. So when you're looking at that speech, you should think of these 2 elements. One-on-one connect, and the other is the group connect. Because not everything will align with everyone. So when it was asked, how many of you have an emotional mother? How many? He was looking at multiple responses, quantity. But when he said, have you had an experience? It's not quantity. Even if one person had it, it's a connect, right? So you need to go with the individual and the group. Try to connect that. It's not an easy task. To be very honest, it takes practice, preparation, practice, and of course the final delivery to do. I'll give one example, and this is something which is very real. A humorous speech. We all know Zandu Balm.
Yes.
We all know it, right? Zandu Balm is used for pain. So when the person gave this speech at the club level, everyone laughed. At the next level, everyone laughed. Division level, everyone laughed. But when it went to the district level, very few people laughed. It hit the person. You know why? Because the audience was almost the same and they had heard the same story so many times. They said, abhi to hasne ka matlab nahi raha. So that connect got lost. And people were saying, हाँ ये तो पता है, ये अभी ये पूछेगा, ये पूछेगा, ये पूछेगा. So if you are becoming predictable, you lose that connect. If you are able to create something different with the same storyline and bring the audience back, that is the connect that you need to focus on. Tanish.
Thank you, Toastmaster Brillian.
Welcome.
Gavalier Alicia, I have this question that in school I was selected for an inter-school TED competition and I had to give a speech on the topic growth in welfare and well-being, and the speech was actually for 2 minutes, but in my club I've given speeches for 5 to 7 minutes and it was quite difficult for me to put all the pauses and my introduction and even the appropriate conclusion in just 2 minutes. So like I wanted to know, how do you accumulate all of these things in 2-minute speech?
Your name, I missed it. Alicia.
Alicia.
Alicia, yeah, hi. Thank you, Alicia, for that question. You know, as I said, there's so much information here. it becomes very difficult for us to compress it into a 2-minute speech every time we want to. So every time you are faced with a challenge, you should focus on the speech based on 2 parameters. One, what is it that you want to convey? That is the core. And the second is create the O part of the story, the omit. What will you omit when you need to speak for 2 minutes? If you have a speech of 5 to 7 minutes, what are the things, if you omit, will not have any impact on the speech? Identify those and leave it out. Because if we try to include everything, that goal of reaching 2 minutes will not be achieved. And everything is important, then you need to go back to the drawing board and note down saying A, B, C, D. Okay, I am okay with A and D. B and C should be something which is omittable, right? So identify the O part of your story so that when you are going out there, and you can take this as one of the better ways of preparing is, your content should be so rich that you can talk for 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, or 1 day. So you start from the other side. 1 day, 1 hour, 10 minutes, 1 minute. So omission is what you need to be aware of. Every time you are called to say, okay, you don't have 2 minutes, you just have 1 minute. What is it that you will omit? What is it that you will keep? And opening body engagement need not be for a long duration, right? Dhananjaya Hetiyarachi's speech, it took a long time to bring to you the original message, but you have a lesser time, so you quickly jump into it. Some of these are relevant. The iron bars, he will probably remove that vivid imagery and he'll say that I was behind bars, I was arrested. Instead of speaking for 2 minutes, he'll just say 30 seconds, I was arrested and I felt chained and locked. Now what I have done, the impact remains, the content is getting compressed. So start looking at what are the aspects from your core speech of 5 to 7 minutes that you need to omit, and that will help you speak better and sharper. Yes, Krish, you raised your hand.
Yes, sir. I had a question that what will we do when we blank out in a speech?
Oh, thank you, Krish. Sometimes, it happens. We tend to blank out, and that's because there are too many thoughts, right? Again, I'll go back to what I said. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, come back into the moment. It's okay. There are many speakers in this room that I know of, including me, where we have forgotten what we wanted to say. Take that pause, or maybe laugh it off, saying, I became Johnny Liver for a moment. Bhoola. Right? What I did is, I brought in an element of humor to say, it is real. Sometimes, best of speakers who prepare well can forget. But how you pick up from where you forgot is the key. So that is where you need to have some sort of a fallback on that gap that you have. But most important is to remain calm. It's okay. Sometimes you may want to carry a speech in your pocket. Pull it out, look at it, and continue. It doesn't matter. Okay? Don't feel ashamed. We are so conscious about how we should be delivering that we forget that it's okay to look at the speech, because it's my speech. I will look at it and I will continue. So have these 2 techniques. One is a speech which you have written as bullet points available, so you know which one to jump on. Second is to have a callback, laugh at yourself and carry on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Krish. Yes, Abhishek.
Actually, I had to sign in from my phone. Thank you for the feedback last time. I have 2 questions this time. First,
Not able to hear you,
Is it
Abhishek.
audible now? Is
Abhishek,
it audible now?
yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay, so what are your thoughts about working on a same script or a similar script? As I mentioned that I was writing this speech, but I could identify that it's more of inspiring. So I thought I will change it to humorous. And also when it comes to inspiring in the elective, instead of writing a new speech, I will better work on delivery more. So what are your thoughts regarding this approach? And secondly, a traditional approach is we go to the pathway and then we start writing the speech. Would you recommend that as a habit, as like we listen to songs, we watch videos, we should also inculcate the habit of writing speeches, irrespective of which pathway or which project level we are currently working on?
See, Abhishek, I have answered this, but I'll repeat it once again. One is, don't get carried away by what you are aiming to achieve. You need to identify what is the core. For example, if the core is, let's say, introducing yourself, the second element is bringing in humor. Now, if you flip it and say humor is the prime thing that I need to focus on, then it can actually derail the entire thoughts. If it is starting with introduction and then bringing in a sense of humor, then I would say list it down, identify pockets where you can use humor, and generally it is on self. So for example, I'm just taking, and don't feel offended. Now, one of the cliched jokes with Abhishek, the name itself is, everyone compares me to milkshake, right? Just an example. Now, what I'm doing here is, I am trying to say, okay, I know people make this joke out of me. Can I bring it into my introduction? Someone said, you are lucky, you have Aishwarya as your wife. Then you say, my surname is not Bachchan. Right? What you're trying to do here is bringing in a sense of laughter without being too, I would say, covert in terms of focusing on the humor part. You're just bringing it subtly and moving out. If you focus only on the humor, then my biggest worry is it will end up being a stand-up comedy, because you will just have jokes after jokes after joke, but there will be no connect. With regards to pathways, with regards to objectives, all through the curriculum of Toastmasters, the objectives were always there. It's about aligning the speech to the objectives. The O part, again, what you need to omit, which doesn't fit into the objectives. If it doesn't fit into the objectives, you can omit it. Now, inspiring, motivation, laughing, all of these are part and parcel of every speech. The way in which it gets delivered. Now, for example, if I were to ask some of you in this audience, how was Dhananjay's speech? Someone would say inspiring, someone would say motivating, someone would say entertaining, right? The same speech can have multiple outcomes. So it is not really needed to have multiple speeches. You can focus on the key areas based on the end objective that you need to achieve. Danish, I see your hand.
Sir, it's me, Gavalier Alicia.
Hi, Alicia.
I have another question. When you have to give the same speech at different levels, like when you go ahead from the qualifying level, how do you refine the speech more nicely, and or do you just say the same speech?
I can give you an example of one speech which I delivered for two different audience, right? Now, when I say same speech, it's technically wrong because my audience changed. The first audience was India, which could understand a movie called Chichore. And the second audience was Australian, which had no clue about Indian actors or Chichore. So what I did is I kept the gist of the story the same, but I changed the actors and the anchors. So when I went to the Australian audience, the same script line, the same storyline, I brought in Robin Williams, because I was talking about depression and how we cannot really see how depression impacts people. I did not use a single word of Hindi. In the Indian context, there is this powerful statement or a dialogue in Chichore which says that सक्सेस के बाद क्या करना है ये सब बताते हैं, लेकिन फेलियर के बाद क्या करना है ये कोई हमको नहीं सिखाता. Now that a statement is so powerful in Hindi, if I try to translate it in English, it is completely in a mess, right? It's like going to a French restaurant and ordering something and you realize, अरे ये तो खिचड़ी आ गया, right? So you need to make sure that even though your storyline is there, you need to customize the elements, including anchors, maybe some element of messaging, but the broad outline can remain the same. So similar structure, the end-to-end body can be the same. And what makes a difference is knowing the audience, you change the context to bring in these characters.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
We had our area director, Vittal Medival, who was also sitting here.
hi, Vittal.
I don't know if he left.
Yeah,
He's ready.
Good morning, Brillian.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, even I have cold, cough and all. That's why I didn't open my mouth. Excellent. Good session. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Particularly the question answer session was superbly you answered. I wouldn't have done it. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very insightful, interesting that children can come up with such kind of questions, and they were very natural, spontaneous.
True.
So very touching. Yes. I think I'll just sum it up. Thank you so much, Dr. Brillian, for offering to do this and have taken so much time out of it. Very in-depth presentation. I would say that each one of it probably can take it for a day. That is what we would do as trainers. And then we would make them work on it and do the exercises. But within the limited time, you covered so much. And there is a lot of depth to what you said. I was just remembering the days when I started cooking when I was just 12, 13, right? At the time when mommy says you have to add all these ingredients, spices, you know that, okay, they're all ready, you keep them ready. But then suddenly you forget what is the order in which it needs to be put. Then, okay, let me put it. Mommy is not there. You have to finish the cooking. So you will add. Then you realize, okay, it didn't mess up. But some other dish, it may not be the same. The sequence also has to be the same. If you change the sequence, it messes up. So you realize in certain things, what you say, when you say is also important. At the same time, it's certain other occasions, as long as you say the important things and nobody misses the link, that's okay. So the main framework, like you said, if the goal is very clear, right, then we know that these are the things that should go at this time. Say, for example, like you said, if it has to be something that is inspiring or something that has to leave a message, then you know very well that you cannot miss on that lesson. So it will be there. And you know it has to be left. If you start with it, then again at the end also you want to re-emphasize, reinforce that thing so that it stays with people. So for every, like certain things you, like I said, you add the sugar before the ghee, then the pak becomes so thick, the essence becomes so thick that the sweet becomes hardened. Then it is not going to slide through your throats. People are not going to enjoy that halwa. So how you make it makes a lot of difference when you add what. So you explain that so beautifully. And at that time, I really remembered that struggle I had as a child, because my mother had to go somewhere and we had some guests and I had to prepare halwa. And I didn't know what to do, which one had to go first. And my mother had told me very clearly, if this you mess up, it's going to become hard. So I did on 2 different utensils, 2 different things, and one came hard and one came soft, and somehow I managed. And then I never ever forgot it. So it is learning through practice. It's nothing comes, only practice can make us perfect. We prepare, and practice is very important. So even preparation requires a lot of practice. When we write and rewrite and re-edit, like you said, so many feedbacks coming from so many people, it can confuse. It can be very profuse. But it makes it so interesting. The journey is so interesting. So that is what makes Toastmasters so adorable. Thank you so much, Brillian, for that.
My pleasure.
Sorry. With this, I close. If anybody wants to say anything, we can say that, or we can close the session. Thank you so much. I'll come back to you regarding the next session.
Sure. Yes, Alisha.
I have one more question. So when you're in a competition, you have both the judges and you have the audience. So how do you know whether you have to target the judges more or the audience? Because the audience can also be children, but the judges are elders. And yes, it can be that way.
So let me ask you one simple question. In a contest, what is your purpose?
Delivering that speech,
No,
connecting to the audience,
no,
winning.
absolutely. Right? When your purpose is known, again, I go back to what I said to Abhishek. Is it your introduction or humor which is important? When you flip it, the focus changes. So in a contest, and this is a contest you're talking about, so you have to play by the books and the rules in terms of saying, this is what gets assessed for XYZ, and this is where the maximum impact is. So I will create it. So my focus is on the winning part, which means I need to look at how the judging ballot looks like. What are the areas? It has an element on audience engagement. It has an element on how you have structured the speech. So focus on that, right? Please make sure you know what the purpose is, because if you mix up the purpose, then there is an ambiguity. In a contest, I'll be very candid. My objective is to emerge as a winner. But if I have to emerge as a winner, I need to look at objectives, audience engagement and connect. It comes to around 40% weightage. It's not that it's zero, it's there. The way in which you deliver, the way in which the content is, it still has about 30% weightage. Grammar, use of language, body language, 10%. So overall 100% is distributed across these streams. So identify the purpose and start working on that.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining in on a Sunday morning. Yesterday was World Championship of Public Speaking, so we couldn't really conduct this session yesterday. But it helped me also, as I could bring in some examples from yesterday's speeches that I saw live. And I'll definitely send a message to Nisha saying that while she came second, her speech did have a lot of resonance and some of the elements I could use in the session today. Thank you, Girija, for inviting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the Sunday.
Thank you, Amenora Club, also for joining, and thank all Toastmasters and Gavaliers. Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you
was
so
a
much.
wonderful session. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
I'll share the recording soon. Akshay, thanks for joining and for helping out.
Anytime, Girija. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Idant and Verb. Verb, I'll close it. Le Raja.
Are you not well?
You are also not well?
No, I am quite well, but I'm asking for you.
Yeah, I'm not well. I have a COVID. I have COVID,
Oh,
fever and headache and everything.
bye, ma'am. Take care.
Thank you. It is Chicago, right? It's not night 12:30.
Okay.
Yeah. Idant, thank you so much for joining. Are you Toastmaster? Okay. Thank you so much. I'll close the session.